All this offseason, the Lions and their fans have had to hear every reason under the sun as to why they will not be able to go further than what they did in 2024 and in fact take a step back. But I'm here to tell the NFL they're in for a rude awakening. We're going to talk about it, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. So folks, as we all know, this entire offseason, us Lions fans have had to hear from everybody. NFL, division rivals, interconference teams, everybody has said the exact same thing. Lions are a good team. They're going to be a good team in 2025. But to think that the Lions are going to go further or that they're somehow going to maintain the success they had in 2025 is just absolutely foolhardy. That they're going to take a step back. Because obviously, as we already know, the 2024 season did not go the way that the Lions wanted to. Quick exit in the playoffs, which was obviously due to the fact that the offensive leadership was bailing on us. Thank you, Johnson. And also the fact that we had a decimated injury-plagued defense. So, when you consider that, the fact that we lost both coordinators and the obvious stiff interdivision competition, plus interconference teams like the Rams and the Commanders and the Bears that are making all these moves to try and catch up, there are quite a couple of people that are out there that are thinking the Lions are going to take a step back in 2025. And obviously this is also based upon the fact of who the Lions have on their schedule for 2025 as well. However, for those that think the Lions are just going to fade away into oblivion, or they're just going to fall back down to earth or take a step back, I got something to tell you. You all are in for a rude awakening as you got another thing coming for you. This team is one that's built for challenges, it's rooted in overcoming adversity, and it's also set in defying the odds. And 2025, I believe, firmly will be the Lions' crowning jewel of achievement. And I have several reasons why. Now, what are those reasons? Well, let's start. Reason number one. The Lions are the absolute masters. They are the kings of when it comes to the epic bounce back. If you take a look at the Lions, ever since Campbell and Holmes, took over, whenever the team has had a bad game, a heartbreaking game, some sort of loss which was just like, wow, was not expecting that on the bingo card. You have to take a look at how that team has then bounced back the very next game. Think about this, folks. I'm going to put this up on an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. If you go back to 2022, 2023, and 2024, as I show it up on the screen, you're going to get a very, very clear picture here. In 2022, we lost to the Bills in Week 12, then came back in Week 13, absolutely destroyed the Jags. Week 16, we had an embarrassing loss to the Panthers. Week 17, we come back, we absolutely dismantle the Bears. Then in 2023, we saw this several times. Week 2, we have a heartbreaker of a loss to the Seahawks. Then we come back the next week. We beat the Falcons. Week 7, we get embarrassed by the Ravens. Come back the next week. We win over the Raiders. Week 14, we lose to the Bears. Then the next week, we absolutely trounce the Broncos. Week 17, we have a fallacy of a loss against the Cowboys. And then we have a clinching win against the Vikings the next week. Then in 2024, we have a heartbreaker to the Bucs in Week 2. Then we have a comeback win over the Cardinals in Week 3. Then in Week 15, we have another heartbreaker of a loss to the Bills. And then we absolutely drub the Bears the very next week. You ought to notice a pattern there. Any time since 2022, virtually, ever since we got on a roll and we're winning more games than losing, which, that was about mid-season of 2022, any time the Lions have lost a game, any time, the very next game they play that actually is recorded and actually kept for record, so I'm talking regular season, doesn't matter if it's the postseason going into the next regular season, whatever the case have you, we always bounce back. In fact, think about it this way. Hell, after the loss we had against the 49ers in the NFC Conference Championship game in 2023, we followed that up with a 15-2 season. So, let me put this out there for you. We go 15-2 with an injury-decimated defense and an offense where our offensive coordinator already had his bags packed and half his body off out the door and on his way to Chicago. What do you think the Lions are going to do after losing 45-31 against the Commanders? Yeah, that's what I thought too. So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2. Couldn't have this conversation if we didn't talk about the defense now, did we? Reason number 2 is the defense is going to prove all the naysayers wrong. Let's think about this. Long has the defense for the Detroit Lions been the scapegoat as to why this team couldn't win a Super Bowl. Now, sometimes those reasons were justified. Sometimes the reasons weren't. But, again, going back to 2024, the Lions caught simply the worst potential bug any potential, sports professional team could possibly have. That's the injury bug. Yet think about this. Despite having that infestation of that troublesome issue, with the Lions being down, some 16 different starters over the course of the year on IR, the Lions still finished 7th in points given up. They were a top 10 defense despite having all of those starters being gone. But as I said, and many will also say, well, David, since we lost Glenn, the defense is definitely going to take a step back. Okay, keep thinking that, my friend. All it's going to do is it's going to provide more fire, more motivation to not only the whole defense itself, but it's also going to provide motivation to the new defensive coordinator, Kelvin Shepard, who knows, as DJ Reed just pointed out, that this defense is literally loaded with dogs that are absolutely rabid. They are wanting to go out there and kick some ass and, take some names. They're wanting to bite some kneecaps off. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But then think about this. Not only is Kelvin Shepard and the entire defense absolutely motivated to prove all the doubters wrong and in the worst way possible, you have to think about some of the guys that we're getting back that we didn't have going into the playoffs last year, a.k.a. Aiden Hutchinson. I'm telling you this right now. The type of guy that Aiden Hutchinson is, I can guarantee you this with every fiber of my being, that he is going to come back stronger than when he left from that brutal injury, and I can guarantee you he is going to come back with an extra extreme vengeance. Because remember, the first 5 games he played last year, he had 7.5 sacks. That 7.5 sacks still finished in the top 25 last year, even though he only played 5 games. yeah, Aiden Hutchinson's going to get his. Can guarantee that. Then think about the other guy that we didn't have in the playoffs that was also a massive loss. Aleem McNeil. I can guarantee you this. Aleem McNeil coming off of that ACL injury, having Levi Onwuzurike back, and also DJ Reader, he's going to be an absolute terror on the inside of that defensive line. Absolute monster. And then you have to think about the fact that we also didn't have guys like Rodrigo and Barnes in the playoffs. Rodrigo, we lost, I think, somewhere towards the middle of the season. Barnes, we lost super early. But when those guys were playing, those two guys were playing like pretty damn good linebackers, and they're coming back to a unit which has already got Campbell and Anzalone returning. I guarantee you this, that linebacking unit is going to provide great middle coverage for the defense, and it's going to be a stout run reinforcement. Oh, and then just to talk about a guy that we did have for the playoffs, but I know some people are going to say this, oh, well, we still have Terry and Arnold. He's a weakness in coverage. No, he's not. Again, I've talked about this before. If you take a look at Terry and Arnold over like the last month and a half that he was playing football for the Lions, his numbers were exponentially better than where they were when they started. And now that he's got DJ Reed, who's arguably one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, on the opposite side of the field, who's going to mentor him, who's going to help him grow, and he's also got a dual all-pro safety duo back there with frickin' Kirby and Brian Branch, and he's also got Amik Robertson. I'm telling you this right now, Terry and Arnold is about to make some great strides in this upcoming season, because I don't know if y'all have seen the Twitter video, but he's already putting in some absolute top-notch work to get ready for the upcoming season. I'm guaranteeing you this, the Lions defense, it's about to be unleashed. The dogs are about to be taken off their leashes and are absolutely going to wreak havoc. So that's reason number 2. Reason number 3. Jared Goff is going to prove the detractors, the haters, the doubters wrong once again. Because, once again, the Goff haters are going to want to say that Goff is going to all of a sudden fall off because he doesn't have Ben Johnson. Just like they wanted to say how he was going to fall off because he no longer had Sean McVay. He couldn't win without Sean McVay. And just like last time, Goff is going to prove him wrong. Just like I said he would. And think about this. Not only did the detractors say that Goff was going to fall off, they said he was going to fail miserably here in Detroit. Not only did he prove them wrong, he proved his doubters oh so wrong. Let's think about this. If you go back to when Goff got here in 2021, since that time, Goff has been the 4th best quarterback in completion percentage, the 2nd best quarterback in passing yards, he's been tied 4th for the best pass average per throw, ranked 4th in passing touchdowns, ranked 9th in passing touchdown percentage per throw, tied 4th for pass interception percentage per throw, 4th best passer rating in the NFL over that time frame, and has the 5th most wins. Now, let me just put this out there. To try and, credit all of that success on Ben Johnson would be an absolutely idiotic, insane thought process, and there's a couple of reasons of why that would be an insane and idiotic thought process. Number 1, let's take a look at the fact that the guy who's now the offense coordinator, John Morton, was more of the original architect of the offense that Ben Johnson called. I wouldn't even say ran, called, than Johnson himself. Number 2, Goff worked with John Morton to help build the offense that Johnson called. So think about it here. Yeah, everybody wants to talk about Ben Johnson, and we'll talk about him here for a little bit more in this next reason, but John Morton, who was more of the original architect, is coming back to Detroit, repairing himself with Goff after it's already been proven that when Morton helped build this offense in the first place, it was already an instant success. But the reason why I'm saying that Johnson does not get anywhere near the amount of credit that a lot of people are going to try to give to him is because, well, let's think about this. If you have three different guys that are credited with help coming up with this offense, Morton, Johnson, and Goff, Johnson's no longer here, but Morton and Goff are. So 2 out of the 3 guys are here. Johnson's only responsible at most for a third of how this offense came into being, and he's not here anymore. But Goff and Morton are. So 2/3 out of that formula are still here. But then think about this. Goff was well known for that offense that Johnson wanted to run, for constantly, what was it when he get up to the offensive line? Kill, kill, kill. How many damn times did we hear Goff say that? And we all knew exactly what Goff was doing. He was killing the play that Johnson had brought in and going to something else. That meant that Goff didn't like what Johnson had called based upon the defense he was seeing. That right there ought to tell you something pretty big too. Then there's a 5th reason. Just have to ask this question, but who was Ben Johnson before freaking Goff was around? Oh, that's right. Johnson was a nobody before Jared Goff. In fact, Johnson was a position coach that was struggling to find work in the NFL. If not for Matt Patricia hiring him and then Dan Campbell retaining his services when he became the new head coach, who the hell knows what Ben Johnson would be, what he would have done in those 4 years. Chances are he wouldn't have become a hotshot offensive coordinator, now the head coach of the Bears. I can guarantee you that. And then the final reason, Goff was responsible for a lot of the intricacies about how that offense worked. We literally heard freaking Campbell and Johnson say it all the time. Goff was responsible for reading plays, reading coverages that the defense was giving them, changing the plays at the offensive line. He would go up to the offensive line sometimes with 2 or 3 different plays to call out of, sometimes up to 4. And then on top of that, we found out that freaking Jared Goff had the ability with Frank Ragnow to alter the offensive line protections. That's a hell of a lot of stuff to put on a freaking guy's plate, meaning that, since Goff was taking over those responsibilities, that was something that Ben Johnson had no control over, because all of that stuff I'm talking about, it happens on the field, not on the damn sideline. So once again, the importance of Ben Johnson is vastly, grossly over-exaggerated compared to what Goff actually does while he's on the field, the preparation he does every single week, and the hand that he and Morton had in making this offense. So if Goff was doing all of these things to help get the offense to exactly where it was, and now he's got Morton back with him, that makes up 2/3 of the offensive scheme, the offensive blueprint of what this offense is. I can tell you this right now. Goff is going to absolutely shred people in 2025. No doubt about that in my mind. And the reason why I have no doubt about it in my mind as to why Goff is going to get more success and have more credit for the success he has this year compared to past years is because let's take a look at the 4th reason why I believe the Lions are going to make the NFL cry uncle. Because not only is Goff going to be better in 2025 and prove his doubters wrong, the offense is going to be better in 2025. As I stated just a few moments ago, John Morton is more of the original architect of this offense than Johnson was. Johnson was more the guy that, he got handed the reins and called the plays. Goff was the one that made sure the trains ran on time. Johnson was just the one putting the schedule out, and sometimes the schedule wasn't all that good. But here's the difference between John Morton and Ben Johnson. There are 3 main differences. Number 1, John Morton has more NFL coaching experience and just more coaching experience in general. Number 2, John Morton has better coaching roots. And then number 3, Ben Johnson did not have the coaches that John Morton has around him right now. John Morton has better coaches. Let's take a look at that first reason. John Morton started coaching back in 1998 with the Raiders. You want to know when Johnson started officially being a coach rather than just, like a graduate assistant or some nonsense like that? It was 2011. That means that John Morton has 13 more years of coaching experience than Johnson has. That makes a huge difference. 13 years is damn near half my life. Then, think about the second reason, better coaching roots. John Morton has had the ability, since becoming a coach, to work with some of the best offensive minds in the NFL over the last near 30 years. Because he worked with John Gruden, he's worked with Sean Payton a number of times, and he's worked with Jim Harbaugh. You take a look at Johnson's coaching track record, he doesn't have any of those names as guys that he's worked underneath. Johnson doesn't have that pedigree. So, once again, the only thing that gives Johnson the credibility that he has is that John Morton helped create the offense that Johnson ran, or rather called, and that Goff ran and made into a top offense, if not the best offense in the league. That's reason number 2. Reason number 3, John Morton has better coaches. John Morton has a better passing game coordinator and running backs coach than Johnson ever had, because who's his passing game coordinator this year? David Shaw. Who's the running backs coach? That's Tashard Choice. David Shaw gets his coaching roots from the legendary Bill Walsh. Probably one of the last few coaches that can actually say that's actually, from the modern times. And then let's think about Tashard Choice here for a minute. Tashard Choice has long been considered the best running backs coach in all of football, college or NFL. So why am I bringing that up? Well, let's think about this. If you take a look at Tashard Choice, there's another reason why I brought him into this conversation. Tashard Choice was the guy that worked with Jahmyr Gibbs at Georgia Tech while in college. So the fact that Gibbs and Choice are going to be repaired again in the NFL, that is a massive opportunity, not only for Gibbs to take a further step forward, but also for Monty as well. And what that's going to do is not only continue to add lethality to the Lions' already potent run game, but their absolutely surgically deadly play-action game. Again, take a look at Jared Goff's numbers off of play action in 2024. Second best completion percentage off of play action. The most passing yards off of play action. Tied second best pass average per throw. Tied second most passing touchdowns. Ranked fourth for passing touchdown percentage per throw. And ranked third best passer rating off of play action. So wait a minute here. Jared Goff last year was arguably the best quarterback off of play action when you take a look at all the stats and rankings that I just put up. But then think about this. The Lions last year, what was their running game like? They had the 6th best rushing offense in total for all rushing yards. They were tied 6th for the best average per rush out of all NFL offenses. They were ranked 4th best in terms of first downs picked up in their running game. And that's just overall. When you specifically bring it down to a much more smaller sample size, aka Gibbs had the 5th most rushing yards by a running back last year with a little over 1,400. He had the 3rd best rush average by a running back last year with 5.6 average a rush. Oh, and by the way, Gibbs also was tied for first with the most rushing touchdowns by a running back with 16. So, since you're pairing Choice with Gibbs again, you get back Hank Fraley as the offensive line coach, but now he's also the run game coordinator, which I think that's brilliant, and I've said so before. And then you pair that with David Shaw, who's replacing Tanner Extrained as your passing coordinator, and you're replacing Ben Johnson with John Morton, who's the original architect more so of this offense that Goff runs. It is insanely stupid to think that this offense won't reach unprecedented heights that will make opposing defenses absolutely cry mercy. So think about it. Defense is going to come back with a vengeance after all of the freak injuries they had last year. Goff is going to be better. The offense is going to be better. This is a team that's rooted in overcoming adversity, defying the odds, and, taking adversity square on the chin and beating it. Oh, and the Lions' track record since midway of 2022 is any time they've had a loss, they instantly bounce back with a win. And they are better every single time for it. Think about that. That right there tells me that the NFL doubters, the people that want to say the Lions are going to take a step back because, we lost both of our coordinators. Goff no longer has Johnson. Your schedule's more difficult than what it was in 2024. Y'all be talking out the place where the sun don't shine because you don't understand how this team works. You don't understand how you don't understand how Dan Campbell gets this team ready, and you sure as hell do not understand how this team reacts to adversity. They take adversity and they laugh it off. They brush it off. They're like, you want to give us adversity? Bring it on. We're about to take that to the freaking woodshed and spank its ass. So yeah, I'm telling you this right now. The NFL, you are in for a rude wake-up call because there's a vengeful Detroit Lions that's coming to absolutely embarrass your ass in 2025. And it's going to be delicious to watch. Oh, and that's not even including what we're going to get in the draft, which Brad Holmes, he's the maestro of the draft. He always gets good stuff in the draft. So yeah, I have a lot of reasons to be confident that the NFL in 2025, they're going to be crying quite a lot of mercy against the Detroit Lions. Because, correct me if I'm wrong here, the Lions were, third in terms of having the most 30-point games. They were the number one team in terms of having the most 40-plus point games over, an opponent. And they were tied for first for 40 most points, and they were ranked number one for 50-plus points scored in a game. That was last year. And again, that was with a defense that was as battered as it was, that gave up the 7th least amount of points last year. Yeah, I have a right to be feeling pretty confident. So even though people want to detract from us and be doubting about us, trust me, if there's one thing this video ought to tell you, don't be listening to them, because this is the typical MO for the Lions, and you know what they do with that freaking adversity? They feed off it. They find a way to motivate themselves from it, and they're better for it. But anyway, I believe I've presented my evidence. I believe I've presented my case. So having said that, I'm going to end this episode and say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage y'all, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also encourage y'all, please, to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you possibly can. The more we can do that, the greater the channel can grow and spread. And with that being said, if this is the first time you're watching me, you guys have been watching me forever and a day, I hope y'all enjoyed the content. Hope y'all got something out of it. Hope y'all learned something or have something to chew on in your brain. And with that, I also want to say I hope everybody's got something in their life that makes them happy, makes them smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.